Yeah, we're live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the live watch along with myself, Paul Nealon, and Jared Brown. How's things, Jared?
Not too bad, Paul. Glorious Sunday evening. So hopefully we'll be setting for a cracking game of football to finish off what has been a busy day of football, really.
Yeah, let's hope so. Callum Robinson obviously starting for West Brom. I don't know what the story is with Darragh O'Shea, but Callum Robinson's starting, and obviously West Brom need to win this more than Villa, I think.
Yeah, I think you kind of feel with West Brom now after, despite a couple of recent victories, but that defeat to Leicester there on Thursday night, you kind of feel this is last chance to do. I think this is a good opportunity, as you touched on. Villa don't really have much to play for. They've drifted off in recent weeks, don't even look like they're going to challenge for a Europa League spot. So especially now with the likes of Newcastle picking up results off the weekend, Burnley's big win today. This really is kind of a must win for West Brom.
Yeah, no, 100%. And obviously they had been getting some decent results recently, beating Chelsea and that. Um, so they've shown that they're more than capable when they want to be. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
Yeah, even their
Just trying to
performance as
turn.
well against Southampton and their league match after that was very, very impressive. They blew them away. Like they had the setback of having an early goal again, controversially disallowed by VAR, but didn't let that stop them at all. And they romped a victory in that game. And it was finally nice to see Callum Robinson score a goal against someone else other than Chelsea in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't think he was gonna do it, to be honest. He's a cracker as well. The one he actually got against Chelsea, the one. Do you remember the one when they came back and he side footed smashed it in? But
The first goal of his two, even his second goal where he lovely little dink chip wasn't bad either.
yeah, I just feel mad. I haven't done one of these watch alongs in ages now. It just kind of feels kind of weird to me getting back into the groove, but in a good way, weird. Like,
Yeah. Well, considering we're missing really in the years there on team, this better be a good game and make up for it. As touched on as well, the sun is shining, but hopefully, because it's a bit of weird kind of day of football. The Burnley Wolves game, I don't think anyone seen that scoreline coming. I don't think we've ever seen Burnley score 4 goals in their history under Sean Dyche. I didn't actually watch the Man United Leeds match. I was in work, but I don't think I missed much. And I seen the first half of the League Cup final, and going from that evidence, it was no surprise in the end to see the Manchester City won that game.
yeah, I was watching bits of the Man City game. They were definitely the better team in the first
Yeah.
half and just didn't score. And then Spurs sat back or whatever. So surprised it was only 1-0. And then I actually watched bits of the Burnley game. They were unlucky not to have a fifth goal. Vidra's goal was taken quite nicely, but he was like marginally offside because of VAR. So um, they could have won it by a bit more. Wolves were shocking. They really
Yeah, they were.
miss the likes of Doherty and so on, which they obviously had doing so well for them. But I think it might be a good decision to see him maybe go back there if they take him back in the summer. I think it would suit everyone if he was maybe to go back there.
Yeah, I don't think to be any really hard feelings with the fans. He definitely was a fan favorite from his time there over the last kind of couple of years. And I think they'd be delighted to have him back. And as you touch on, it's clear like between his departure, Josh's departure, and Neves' injury, that just haven't quite been the same. And I think probably that was a case as well of today's game. Don't have much to play for. A lot of their players probably who are going to the European Championships maybe want to start minding themselves and careful if they pick up an injury now. That's in the squad. And probably the other players are probably just already starting to think of their summer holidays at this stage. But that was a massive, massive win for Burnley area. That I think pretty much has guaranteed their Premier League survival. You take it every year, this is surely the year Burnley, not the prettiest team in the world to watch, limited enough kind of team, small squad, small budget that they're going to go down, but somehow they always just come alive this time of year. They remind me like of Wigan under Martinez. They just always seem to find a way to stay up. Eventually, they did get caught, but super job that Sean Dyche is doing there, I have to say, even though, as I touched on, I don't find him the most prettiest manager to watch in terms of their style of football.
Yeah, I think they're effective in what they do. Like you remember when
Yeah.
Stoke stayed up there for a number of years on the Pulis, like they were a really good side, even though they had quite good technical players or whatever. They seemed to just kind of play to a good way that they were. They had a bit of an identity about them, and that's what Burnley have. And that's why they grind out results against teams that are kind of in and around them. But today, that was a game where they really put down a statement, and I think they'll be fine. And they're just a good side. I don't think Dyche should actually go anywhere because I think of when Moyes left Everton and how that didn't work out for Man United. I think Dyche would really have to pick his next club really carefully.
Yeah.
Um, because at the same time, if he goes to a bigger club and he tries to play the football he's been playing, look at Mourinho at Spurs. The fans just didn't like it, and he was moved on because of his negative play and stuff like that. But look, in some cases, you have to be entertaining in this age of football, which you can tell Stephen Kenny, because he obviously tries to do that, and it hasn't worked for him so far.
Yeah, I think as well with Dyche, just be careful what you wish for too, as you touched on, like picking your next move carefully as well. That like fans might buy into him. Like I see, for instance, he's been linked with the Crystal Palace job, but like I think going from the fact that Palace fans want to see the back of Roy Hodgson and be a similar type style manager, they wouldn't kind of take to him. And I think overall, in general, you ask most Burnley fans, not that I know many of them personally, I'd say they're very, very fond of Sean Dyche. I think they probably realise for a club of their size, and they're much more bigger clubs in the Championship and even League One, to be doing what they're doing, to be consistently now a solid, stable Premier League club. Yeah, they mightn't be the prettiest team to watch, but you say they're effective, they get results. They still had some huge results this year. Like they won away at Goodison, they won away at Anfield, they won away at the Emirates. So like they are an absolute nightmare for big teams to play against. And I think, as I said, like for Sean Dyche, I think Burnley suits him and he suits Burnley.
Yeah, he gets the best out of quite average players as well, let's be honest. I mean, Chris Wood came and played against Ireland, he played against Cabo as well, and he didn't even cause that much of a damage against those types of clubs. And then today, he hammered Wolves. Like they couldn't deal with him. He obviously set up the goal as well, the last goal for Westwood, with some good play. So I think he was class today, to be honest. I think he's a good striker, kind of underrated, but Burnley's a really good club for him, and obviously Dyche suits them quite well. Yeah. Is there any good comments there, or are people not getting the comments in yet?
There's actually a couple of comments flying in here already, so I'll get them. It's a while since I've done this, but I think I have a fair gist of getting this. So good to see Lewis Blues is coming in and on the spirit of the game. Come on, West Brom, as we touched on earlier, massive game for the Baggies. Really could do with the 3 points tonight, and they shouldn't be lacking for much motivation either, as West Brom or Aston Villa would even be a clash as a close rivals them. And then to stick with the banter as well for the game tonight, Theo Ryan saying up the Villa. No surprise to see a couple of comments like that coming in. Villa are a well-supported club in this country. I know a couple of fans myself as well. A couple of good comments coming in here that you'll like, Paul, following in the spirit of the jersey you're wearing, from Roscoe there, up the Shells. Another big result for you there on Friday night. And obviously we've got what I would like to call an IFF TV derby on Friday night between yourself and Treaty United.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Ross there, because he started supporting Shells. Well, he says he's supporting them a while, but like he actually went, and after the big episode this day last week, wasn't it, with the Super League, he decided to get a Shells top and start actually supporting them properly now, and hopefully going forward he'll start supporting them. So his top arrived just in time on Friday for the Shells game and Shells win against Cabo, which again, as you said, is a really big result. We'll be looking to obviously get the 3 points again. Is that a penalty for Villa? Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry. Massive game against Treaty to keep going. We haven't lost the game yet so far this season. I don't think they have either. So somebody's always got to go, as they say.
Yeah, he comes in with another comment here as well. It might be one for Paul Tierney if he was here, but maybe you've had a chance to watch the replay. Just wondering how good was Shane Farrell's goal Friday night. I didn't get a chance to see it yet myself.
I saw it on the replays. It was really good, but I think that's what he means. I think he was trying to tell you how good it is, if that makes sense.
Oh, right. I picked that up wrong. So just one here as well to stick with in relation to tonight's game, as Ghazi steps up to take this penalty. Or not, was it a Ghazi, sorry? It's one
Say that again?
Anyway. Was it a Ghazi or Trezeguet that scored that penalty for Villa?
El Ghazi's taking it here. He hasn't scored for me, but thanks for letting me know.
Sorry, well, I was
worried. I told you anyway.
Where I even had the right Villa player or not there. But one in here from Troy, wondering, is the young Villa lad, Irish lad on the bench, and I forgot his name. I can't exactly say I remember his name at the top of my head, but I know he's from Cork. He would have played that cup tie against Liverpool, but I think he was caught up in the first team as well that got ruled out with COVID. He was training with them at the time.
Louis Barry?
No, I don't. That wasn't the name I was thinking of, because I know he's down in England at the moment. I remember there was a lad as well who was from Cork. I can't remember his name either, to be honest.
No, okay. I don't know. I can't. I'm using my phone for this as well, so I can't check it to see.
We've both been shown up there, unfortunately. So Good comment coming in here for Owen Ryan, getting a bit of favouritism myself. Up the Pats, yeah. We talked about Chelsea having the big win Friday night. It was another fantastic result as well for St. Pat's on Friday night. Watched the game back this morning. It wasn't the prettiest of games, wasn't too many clear-cut chances, but I suppose we were a little bit more clinical than Finn Harps, and I suppose that was the difference, because like it was a very, very even game until what was a brilliant goal from Billy King. Had a lot of work to do, got the strike out after getting the ball out of his feet, and then the second goal, a good pull back by Ronan Coughlin has been very impressive this season. I think that's 5 goals now he's either scored or assisted, and good to see Matty Smith, another one of the new signings, get off the mark. So yeah, going well. A couple of big games come up now. Got Longford at home on Friday night, and then the following Monday, the bank holiday Monday, it is Sligo Rovers away. What will be a very, very good test. But yeah, I can't complain so far as a Pats fan. Very, very good start to the season. Another one in here from CPFC, whether that means Crystal Palace Fan FC. I don't know, maybe he might let us know himself. But thoughts on City winning the Carabao Cup? Yeah, as we touched on there, I only seen the first half myself, but City were very much the dominant team. Spurs were limited to the odd few chances on the counter-attack, but they have been the specialists of that competition the last couple of years, Paul. The question is whether, we know they're probably going to add the league at this stage. I think 8 points ahead, but there's only a handful of games left. But will there be a treble at the end of the season for Man City?
They're obviously class. Like the fact that they even play without really a registered striker. Oh, it was a good free kick. Without an actual out-and-out striker, like they've got Jesus and Aguero playing off the bench, and they've got the likes of Foden, De Bruyne, Sterling, and Mahrez as basically like their 4 attackers, and they just play unbelievable. Pep has mastered that, because you remember, like I remember when Liverpool won the league last year. Don't remind me, but you look
at blue here.
Yeah,
yourself and Kevin Sheedy have won me over after Tuesday night.
Kevin Sheedy's a legend, yeah. But no, like I was thinking of how are Man City going to get back and topple Liverpool. And I know Liverpool have had their injury problems and stuff, and they'll probably be back thereabouts next season. But with City, like the way he's changed the way they play since around Christmas time, and they've just been unbelievable. They're going to walk the league, that's a given. But whether they win the Champions League, I'd like to see them win the Champions League, because it's something that they really want to break their duck with. But I can see why loads of people wouldn't want them to do it as well. They're like the new Chelsea. I mean, they just spend money on everyone and buy everyone, but you know, other teams maybe have to work their way up to get to that level. Like I say, I don't know, an Everton or Leicester have to work their way to get up to that level. Do you know what I mean? Who may not ever actually get to that level, just down to the fact that these clubs have the riches that they do. So I think in some ways, some people would like to see City lose and maybe just win the league, because they're going to win the league, and they've obviously won the Carabao Cup. So I think it's more likely to see a double, but I'd like to see them win the treble myself. But I can see why a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah, I think whoever wins that tie, I think between themselves and PSG, for me, would be the favourites. I'm not trying to sound like a bit of a bitter Liverpool fan or anything else like that. Don't get me wrong, I think Real Madrid fully deserved their victory over 2 legs, but I just kind of can't help but feel Liverpool made them slightly look a little bit better than what they were. I don't think Real Madrid could believe at times just how easy and somehow goals were even gifted them in that first leg. And I thought second leg, apart from what was expected, Liverpool to kind of throw everything at them, first couple of minutes, that Salah chance, I thought Real Madrid were largely kind of comfortable. I would have felt, if you were a Madrid fan watching that second leg, you never would have felt in danger of throwing away the lead. But I still just think that City and PSG, just attacking wise, are just a little bit ahead of the other teams. I think Chelsea are doing very well to be where they are. You can kind of say maybe the draw has been a bit kind to them, not they got Porto and stuff like that, but they still took care of Atletico Madrid in the round of 16. We know how tricky they can be in Europe, just ask me from this time last year. But yeah, I'm probably the same as you. I think PSG, look at them as well, win the Champions League is everything for them. I think if you look at them in the French league this year, they may very well go on to win that league, but they normally have that wrapped up by Christmas. They haven't really been fully focused on it this season, and I think they're going all out for the Champions League, and I think they'll get the reward against City, and I do think they'll then go on to beat whoever wins between Real Madrid and Chelsea. I actually give Chelsea a good chance in that one, because I think Liverpool didn't really kind of get at that Real Madrid team as much as they probably should have.
Yeah, I don't think Real Madrid are as good of a team as they think they are. And actually, I hope they go to rot now after the Florentino Perez, the way he's acting with the Super League and stuff like that. So I hope they go to rot, and Barca, because they're just absolute, like, greed merchants. Like there's no regards for anyone else. They're just so in debt that they don't care about anyone else. That they just want to look after their own club and no one else, and they want to take away the competition from everybody else. And I hate that type of stuff. So I've no time for any of those clubs. And saying that there, I just said that I want to see City do that, but I don't know who else is in the round there. Are Bayern still in it?
The Champions League or the supposed Super League?
Champions League. Champions
Oh
League.
no, but PSG knocked them out in the quarterfinals.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember Neymar
PSG,
celebrating in
Man
front of
City,
him.
Chelsea, Real Madrid. I suppose a lot of people. Well, you kind of go against the trend. What most people would say the Real Madrid with the less of four evils left, but I think after this week gone by, I think they could very much belong in that category of all evils. Like,
Yeah, so I suppose look, I just like the way Man City play. I like
yeah,
Pep Guardiola, but of the four teams, that's who I'd like to see win it. But like preferably, if it was a Bayern Munich or something like that, I'd be cheering for them. So it is what it is. Yeah, I just look. It's not like Pep Guardiola and the players did anything. It was the owners.
yeah. Like if I, to be honest, out of the four, I'd probably like to see PSG win it the most, but I despise Neymar, so that takes away a small bit. But it's just they're a big club. They've always had strong tradition and history, and they've waited so long. I think Madrid, they've won like 13 titles already. They've won enough. They've won too many in recent years, particularly 2018. And like Man City and Chelsea, I'm just one of those. I'm never really kind of buy into getting behind another English team in Europe if Liverpool aren't involved. So I'm not going to kind of start that trend now. It wouldn't overly kind of despond me too much. Like I do know a couple of Chelsea fans and the saga and stuff like that. But look, I've already experienced them winning enough on Man City. I don't really know that many fans, so it wouldn't really kind of concern me. But just from a historical kind of point of view and the starter of the club, I would like to see someone like PSG get back to former glory, but unfortunately, because of Neymar, it would take away from a small bit. Just a good comment in here from Liam Kelly, something that we haven't maybe got around to chatting on the channel, but we might maybe do it at some stage. Is obviously we've seen it there on Friday. The games were taken away from the Euro games, taken away from Dublin. Big disappointment. Was I planning on going? I actually gave up my ticket to go to Slovakia and Poland when the refunds were offered in January, probably fearing because this was going to happen. So had you still plans holding out that you might get into a game, Paul? And also, obviously, I'd say you echo the view of everyone else, a big, big loss, not just the city, but I think to the country in general.
Yeah, I think I wasn't going to the games unless Ireland were going to be there. I was going to try and maybe do some volunteer stuff at it, but yeah, it's disappointing for the city. It would have been something to really look forward to. It obviously would have had a great buzz around the country. It's a shame that obviously Ireland weren't in it because I think if they were, they would have tried harder to keep the games in the country. I think it would have been good. I know Gary Spain's big on the fact that money coming into the country. It would have been very good for tourism in the country as
Yeah.
well. So there's all that kind of stuff taken away now. So I just yeah, of course I'm not happy with it, but what can you do? Like there's no point dwelling over it. It's not an ideal situation. We may never get this opportunity ever again as well, I might add. Yeah, it's very disappointing that no one done anything really about it. But it seems to be the case with everything at the minute. Like they don't do anything for even amateur men's football at the minute. Nothing's being told of when we can get back. We just don't get told enough. There's not enough leadership at the top within football, in my opinion, and it needs to change soon. Otherwise, things like this will just continue to happen.
Do you still find it very strange that, given everything that's going on with pandemic and travel, that they still haven't kind of maybe come to their senses, UEFA even, and decided to put this tournament in one country? You've seen Russia, Portugal, England, are just a couple of examples of countries put their hand up and saying that they will host this. I still just think it's bizarre with everything that they're still going to go ahead with this multi-city thing.
Yeah, but I think you'll see it more and more, Jerry, to be honest with you. I've seen people saying that they really like it now, but it kind of ties into that Super League thing as well. That's what they wanted to do, is play all these things in different venues and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think if the interest is there, they'll probably look at, if it goes successfully, they might look at it. But I think, look, if it happens again and they move it from country to country and it works well, there might be an opportunity down the line for Dublin to get it again, maybe, and that could be good. But that would be the only positive I could take out of it, though.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing, as you touched on, was a big opportunity, because when would this come around again? There have been talks that we might be involved with, along with the British countries, of hosting the 2030 World Cup, but you don't know. But I'd agree with the same, even though I'm much more of a fan of a tournament being held in one country. When you have this opportunity and it's been talked up for the last 6 or 7 years in this country, it's such a blow as well. Another thing that's kind of got me thinking as well, to go back to a video we did a couple of weeks ago, if the government don't see us in a position to hold sufficient crowds for this tournament in June, does that mean even by June we're still not going to see crowds in the League of Ireland matches?
You just wouldn't know. Like, look at, I'm sure you see the images from Salt Hill in Galway yesterday, and the images in
Yeah.
Stephen's Green. So it wouldn't surprise me if the cases went dramatically up again, and then they start doing it. But don't see how you can keep punishing people. Do you know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people have been doing everything by the book, and people are entitled to have a little bit of downtime. Look, I know it looked like a concert almost with the two places yesterday. But like, I went and I had a few drinks with my mates out yesterday because I hadn't seen them in ages, and I don't think it's wrong to do that, but obviously do it within the guidelines or whatever. But I think it could come back, and maybe they'll try and punish football again, because that seems to be the way in this country, that no matter, even if every single club were abiding by all the rules when fans were allowed back originally, and then more laws for lockdown, more stricter laws came in, and then all of a sudden fans weren't allowed into games of football, which in actual fact they wouldn't have had that many. Like, certain clubs in first division would barely have that many fans at the ground anyway, so it wouldn't really make a difference why they couldn't let 200 fans in or whatever, because it's massive for the clubs. I think the clubs need to be a bit more pushy. They probably are. We don't know. We don't get told these things, but I think the clubs need to be a bit more pushy about that, because they need to fight, obviously, for the right to let fans back in, and it'll obviously benefit the clubs in terms of revenue on the gates. We can't just keep relying on Watch LOI purchases and stuff like that. Penalty again, West Brom.
Yeah, so chance for them to get back on level terms. It's been a kind of a fairly eventful game so far in this opening 20 minutes or so. Any chance that Callum Robinson could be taking it?
I doubt it, but he had a
Look
part to play in it.
Yeah, it is Matthews Pereira.
He was involved in it. He assisted. Well, I can say he assisted the lad who got fouled.
It's actually now going to VAR, even if things. Of course, it would have to.
Yeah. So if anyone's just joined us, we're watching Aston Villa and West Brom, and it's currently 1-0, and West Brom have been given a penalty, but it's been checked by VAR. Get your comments in if there's some stuff that you want us to talk about as well. Get your comments in, and we'll discuss it. He looks like the penalty's been given, Jer, to me.
He has, yeah. They've decided to give it and go ahead with it. So, chance for West Brom to get a badly needed equaliser, and they have taken it. Sorry for ruining it again on your fault.
No worries. I'm at the VAR check here.
Solid penalty by Pereira. One player who I definitely think, a couple of these West Brom players, I think even if they do go down, which I still expect them to, I think Premier League clubs will come sniffing for in the summer. Obviously, talk to Chelsea want to give Conor Gallagher a right good goal next season, but Pereira is definitely one I think that Premier League clubs will be looking to snap up during the summer.
Yeah, especially if they go down.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see if Darragh O'Shea stays with them. I'd like to see him maybe go somewhere.
Ideally, I would like to see him go somewhere, because I think he's had a pretty good season, and obviously it's better from our point of view to have someone in the Premier League. But overall, from his own point of view, would another season in the Championship be a total disaster for him? Probably not the end of the world, but I think one season down there would be my kind of limit. I think if West Brom were not to come back up, then I think he would be definitely pushing for a Premier League move. But I think he's got a shout. As you say, like the fact as well that even the couple of games with Ireland, I know the results weren't great, but he was one of our standout players. And I think clubs will even be looking at that kind of point of view. So he's got a strong case as well. And Callum Robinson, with his recent turn up in form as well, I think has also given himself a possibility of getting a Premier League move as well. Although I have touched on it before, I do think Championship probably is slightly more his level. I think if you look at his record with West Brom down there last season with Preston, he's consistently doing it in the Championship, where Premier League has kind of only been stits and starts from, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, but you know what? I think if he went to a club that kind of played to his strengths a little bit, like maybe a Leeds or something like that, he'd be quite good at someone like that. He's playing in a team that are ultra defensive, and he is with Ireland as well. So it's no surprise that he's quite poor. But like when you see when he's in and around the box and he's given time and space, he can punish teams, and he is quite good. And he's quite good when he's played down the middle as a striker, which only recently for West Brom he's been played as the central striker, and he's done well. What are you laughing at?
Just the comment I put up there. Where do you think that this view is coming from?
That's Ethan there, yeah.
Yeah.
Get him on up the harps.
He'd be a little bit disheartened by their sudden downturn in form the last kind of couple of weeks, but overall in general, still having a fairly good season. Even just kind of going back to what the earlier point we were talking about just before the penalty interrupted us about getting crowds back in. But I've noticed it big time, and I'm sure you've seen it at a couple of grounds you've been out the last couple of weeks. Any vantage holes there is, any little gaps there are in stadiums, fans are finding ways of just trying to even get in and peep in. I noticed it at Oriel Park last week when I was at the Pats game down there, down the goal behind the away end. It's the same situation again last week. People getting in behind that training ground. I noticed as well it was a name in DC Park on Friday. We've seen social media pictures in Drogheda during the week. The apartments in Inchicore behind the what used to be the away, well, it probably still is kind of close to the clash as the away end when fans are back in. Like any opportunity fans are just going to take to kind of get back in and just kind of think like, and you're nearly just kind of just as well off to let them in the stadium where it's a little bit more safer, they're a little bit more spread out. Like you see yourself, like all the fans are packed right beside each other behind the goal in Oriel Park yesterday where Dundalk scored their second goal.
What was your question though?
I was just kind of saying, backing up that, like, from the point you're saying about getting fans back in, it's, you know, you're better off doing it than having them just trying to peep in through any vantage holes, and they're just going to lead to even more kind of crowding in smaller spaces, where at least they're in the stadium, they're all spread out, like.
Yeah, well, look, they're all getting in everywhere. Even in Derry, I'm sure you've seen the pictures. In Derry, where
There's
they're all
another
up on the
ground,
wall
yeah.
watching the game. Yeah. So yeah, like, look, why not bring them in? They're congregating anyway, so why not just bring them in and let them space it out? You've been at games, you know, where they have everything spaced out. And you can't sit beside people, and you have stewards coming up and moving you if you do sit beside people that you're too close with. So I don't get it. It should be common knowledge now, and should be very easy to do. I mean, you could have it done early in the week. Everything's set up, and fans are spaced out. They did it last year, and all clubs abided by the rule perfectly, and there was no issues. You know, no one was catching COVID from going to League of Ireland games. You know what I mean? So I just find it bizarre that they think it's like almost punishment in my view.
Yeah, just like, you're not going to have instances like we had yesterday in Saltire or Stephen's Green where everyone's going to be packed and conjugating outside the grounds. Pubs aren't even open at the moment, so it's not like you're going to have instances where, oh yeah, but before the game and after the game they're going to be meeting up in confined spaces. Like, everyone's just kind of going to be going home, and it is kind of just annoying. And just think that even like we had a situation, I think, wasn't it, in outside the Dublin clubs for a few weeks in the autumn last year, where you're allowed up to 100, 200 spectators. Like, that's what we're kind of even asking, just to kind of create a little bit of a buzz, a little bit of an atmosphere. You even seen what like 8,000 people can do in a stadium that holds 90,000 in Wembley today, what that could kind of do. Like, so you can imagine what 100, 200 people are going to do in stadiums that hold only 4,000 or 5,000, or even in some cases only 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, look, I just hope it happens sooner rather than later. I hate talking about it because I just don't think it should be something we need to talk about. I think it's something that should be something done about it by now. I mean, how long are we in this pandemic? Over a year now. It's just nothing looks like changing still. Like, it should be now, but they'll use excuses like Salt Hill yesterday. They'll use excuses like Stephen's Green, and they'll use that as the excuses. And you say, okay, but where on the football games where the COVID cases? Do you know what I mean? So just yeah, it just annoys me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's, as you said, like, we're 13, 14 months into this. Like, we have science to kind of back up where most transmissions come from, but yet the government message is still kind of more or less, their idea behind their message is still the exact same thing as it was in March of last year. They haven't even kind of been any more progressive and kind of pointing towards giving people more hope and optimism. And if there was a little bit more kind of a clear message and stuff like that, we wouldn't have seen what we've seen in Salt Hill or Stevens Green or in various other parts of the country that we've seen yesterday. And I suppose a lot of that was with the good weather and stuff like that as well. And as you kind of touched on as well, like, there's a lot of people, as you said yesterday, you went out, but you kept yourself, you made up your mates. I was the same way after I finished work on Thursday. Myself and one of the lads, we went for a few drinks, but we just kept our distance away from everyone. And that's what most people will kind of do anyway. Like, and the outdoor transmissions, it's fairly well kind of safe anyway. But as we touched on there, keep the comments coming in, loads and kind of flying in as well. Good to see we're having 26
Just
viewers a
on that,
moment.
Jer, just before you go on to the rest of the comments, well as that though, I hate those people that go and decide to start ratting on people and say, "Oh,
Yeah,
they're going drinking, and taking videos and taking pictures." Now, like people should be allowed to enjoy themselves as well. Like life's about enjoying yourself. You know, we all have ups and downs and stuff like that. And the last year has been a lot more downs than ups. So if people want to go and meet up with their friends and have a few drinks or just go out and socialise, so be it. Do you know what I mean? I know they were it did look like a concert, but to me, I wouldn't be naming and shaming these people. And it's only ever these people who are on the likes of Reddit or whatever, and then they start trying to name people and shame people. No, they're just idiots who are afraid to come out publicly and actually, give away. The type of people that sit on Twitter with no picture and starts putting up and calling out people and all this, and they have this big opinion, but they're not ballsy enough to have their own picture and their own name next to it to actually come out and call people out. So I wouldn't be worried about any of them. But the only thing is, I just hope that the football community and sports in general aren't held accountable for the actions of it anyway. I don't know what the story is with the cases. They may surge, they may not. Hopefully, they don't. But we should see. You can go ahead with the comments, whatever you're going to go to
yeah,
there.
time will only tell, but hopefully a lot of other sectors as well, because as much as it's nice even just to get out to get a takeaway point last week, it's still not the same from an actual pint glass. So hopefully the likes of this won't set back even the likes of hospitality and other things, and just that we can get bit by bit there with the vaccinations and everything else kind of like that, because it is tough and it is envious watching other parts of the world, and even now the UK, our next door neighbours, how quickly they are progressing. They've had 2 football matches in the last week with reasonable crowds. The snooker now, which is indoor, is up to half the capacity in the Crucible in Sheffield what it normally would be. So it is kind of tough and thinking there's, and like we know loads of people are living in the UK. Like we used to envy people living in Australia and New Zealand on our social media last winter. Now we're envying people in the UK because they're even getting some sort of an outlet, and we just kind of want to get there bit by bit. But look, we're here to talk about the football, not politics, not health, not anything that's going to be negative. We're going to try and keep as positive as we can. Like I said, it's fantastic to see all the comments coming in. 27 people watch at the moment. Keep getting them likes in. And of course, if you're a first-time viewer as well as the channel, get your subscribe button in there as well, because we have loads of content coming up during the weekend. Even hit the notification button to make sure you're notified of all that content that is coming up. But plenty of comments coming in, so we'll try and get through them as best as possibly can. A great one coming in here from Val Maguire. And what is the story about Jeff Hendrick? Is he suspended from Newcastle? From the best of my knowledge, no, he's just on the bench, to be brutally honest.
Well, why are you saying he's suspended? I didn't watch the Liverpool game yesterday. Was he not in the squad?
He was in the squad. He was just on the substitute bench, which is I gave out about watching Newcastle before the international break and questioning what I'm doing in my life. I still find myself watching a lot of Newcastle the last kind of couple of weeks. It just seemed, to be honest, a good TV time. And obviously the fact I'm a Liverpool fan, so we've been watching the game yesterday. But no, he was just, as he has been for every game since the international break, he's just named on the bench for them. And I would question, has he got a future there? Because I know it's obviously hard to say the fans haven't taken him, but they haven't been inside the ground. But the reaction from what you just see in social media is they aren't exactly too keen on Jeff. And it does seem, going by team selection over the last couple of weeks, Bruce isn't too keen on him. And Newcastle form has picked up an awful lot over since the international break. And players, I know, that might directly affect Jeff Hendrick's position, but players like Sam Maxey and Callum Wilson are back. They're trying to feed their way in. So it looks like as if Bruce has got a settled team that's working for him at the moment. Even Joe Willock on loan from Arsenal, there's talks of getting him permanently. And Jeff just doesn't seem to be part of that at the moment.
Yeah, look, I think he probably needs to move this summer as well. I don't think that move has worked out for him probably as well as he thought it was. It would have been mad if he actually had went to AC Milan and started doing well there. Who knows? But look, I think everybody has said this about Jeff Hendrick, is that he just seems to be a bit of a passenger at times, and everyone wants to see him do well. Am I gone there?
Sorry, I thought I put the button to put the main focus on you, but for some reason put it on me. Apologies about that.
No worries. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there because
just on about his move to Newcastle. Sorry, that was my bad completely.
Yeah, no, with Hendrick, everyone wants to see him do well. Everyone's wanted to see him do well since the Euros in 2016, and he's never really gone up to that next level that people were thought he was going to go to. So it's just unfortunate that, Burnley obviously let his contract run out because he thought he was going to get a move. Probably thought he was going to get more interest from bigger clubs, and I would say that Newcastle were probably offering him the most amount of money, and he was probably looking at a chance more likely where is he going to actually play. And he started the season well. He was scoring goals for Newcastle, and he was getting in the team and stuff like that. But then I don't know what it kind of came to around probably when we played the likes of England and stuff like that. His form fell off a cliff, and he just hasn't really recovered for the whole season. He's been a bit part player. You spoke about us covering a lot of and doing a lot of watch-alongs for Newcastle games, and very rarely he was starting. Kieran Clark was starting bits here and there, but Jeff Hendrick, no, I don't know why Val said that he suspended because he was in the squad. You said so. It doesn't really add up.
Yeah, unless he means that he's been suspended by the club. Because I know there was a falling out with players and Bruce.
I think it's a she.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago, and it was Matt Ritchie, and that's going back to the start of March. Like, so I don't know, but no, I've just like I said, I watched their game against Spurs, which was the first one back after international break, and I looked out the team sheet. He was just on the bench, and same again yesterday as well. And he didn't even kind of come on, so it is kind of worrying and it is annoying. And the big thing is, you touched on, like, it looks like he's going to be getting a move in the summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the case he ends up dropping down a division, or it's going to be a case if he joins a club who's just survived by the skin of their teeth this season, or a club who's just come up, the likes of maybe a Norwich or a Watford. Maybe someone like Norwich, who it was clear because when they last came up, they didn't invest, didn't get players with Premier League experience. Clearly, they're going to spend the cash this time. They might look towards Jeff, that he's been in the Premier League now for 4 or 5 years, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jeff Hendrick line out with a Championship club next season.
I think if he did go to a Championship club, it might suit him. Might just get his confidence back up. He gets a couple of goals, and he starts getting a couple of goals. Then he might get back into the Irish. Like, because over how many years recently has Jeff Hendrick been a starter in the Irish team? The last game we played against Qatar was the only start he got out of those 2 games, which normally you consider him to be one of the first names of the team sheet. Maybe fans don't like that he is that, but he has been a very regular member of the Irish team. And I know, as I said, a lot of fans don't really rate him. They don't see what he brings to the team. But even still, his form has been that bad that he hasn't even been starting for Ireland or Newcastle. So I think he does need like a freshen up. He needs like it might be a loan move he may need, because I think once he just got a bit of confidence back, I think he could come back into maybe the Newcastle team and maybe do well. But for now, he just needs something to kind of bring his. But he might be suffering from lack of fans as well. But he needs something to kind of help his confidence grow a little bit, I think.
Yeah, because overall, I know, as you say, it was contract issues more so than anything else at Burnley. I don't think it was a lack of Sean Dyche didn't like him, or a lack of performances or not turning up for Burnley. I thought overall, in general, in his 2 or 3 years there, he popped up with a couple of good goals. He always seemed to score a couple of nice goals against Everton for some reason. He had that cracker as well against Bournemouth in his first season. So like, it was a case of when he was with Burnley that he looked good enough to play in this division. You kind of felt like he could even maybe go a little bit step further than a club like Burnley and someone like a Newcastle, who are a little bit more, well, traditionally more kind of solid mid-table, upper half. I know the last couple of years they've been scrapping for relegation, but it has been very infuriating just to see the way his form's tipped off. And as you touched on, like, great start to the season, scored in his debut, but just never really taken off from there. But look, it's kind of like a similar enough situation, I kind of think, with Shane Duffy and Celtic. Like, it's hard to you can't just pinpoint it on one player. Like, Newcastle in general, with the exception of the last 4 games, have been pretty awful this season, and there's been a lot of players that haven't played well, and Jeff just happens to be one of them.
Well, I think there's a couple of things you got to take into account. He's joined a new club. He's probably not allowed to go around to, say, Kieran Clark's house to have dinner or whatever with him and his family or whatever like that. Whereas in the normal seasons gone past, you'd be able to do stuff like that and really mix in with the team. I say he just goes to training, he comes home. He just goes to matches and he comes home. Same with Shane Duffy. Like, I did an interview with that young lad, Caden McLaughlin, who signed for Villarreal the other day, and he was even just saying, it's quite difficult at the moment because with COVID, you're just locked up. He's watching his friends and his families back home in where he's from, Spain, and he's watching all his friends get together the weekend. His mom's going out with his sister and stuff like that, out for dinner and stuff like that, and he doesn't get to do that. He's just sitting in a room waiting to train and play football. It's a very lonely life as a footballer right now, and people don't see that. People just think, oh, they're footballers, they live the high life, they get paid loads of money, but they literally can't do it. And anytime they do anything, they get named and shamed and highlighted for say, I don't know, going for a point or whatever. They're not allowed to do anything right now. So I don't think we can really be too harsh on too many players at the moment, just during this pandemic. But look, Shane Duffy, his father passed away. I think his granny passed away, all in close time. And then he was forced to just go up to Scotland, live in an apartment by himself, and deal with all this. He was alone with his thoughts probably all the time, which I'm sure after something like that is not a nice place to be, you know?
No, it can't be easy. And you say, like, these are two players as well that have both moved to new clubs and new cities, and like neither of them can say they actually know much about Glasgow or Newcastle. As you said, they haven't even got the experience, haven't even got a chance to unwind and meet up with one of the lads, with the teammates, go for a point after the match and everything else like that. It's literally just such a robotic structure. Yeah, some people might say, oh, but they're footballers, they get to go out, at least their day job involves in meeting people. But like, it's literally training for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and it's usually first thing in the morning. So from midday till 9 or 10 that evening, you say, like, they probably just got to go for a walk. That's the only thing they can probably do to pass their time and everything else like that. So it can kind of be very, very easy. And even as we touched on as well, they've joined two big clubs with two big expectations, and they've fallen flat this season. And that probably just adds the expectation. And the fact that every time that, because the fans can't be there, they're always constantly on social media, always constantly on their backs and stuff like that as well. Like, Newcastle fans as well can be very, very vicious. Like, you just have to ask Damien Duff. Like, he couldn't go anywhere in the street in his time without fans giving dogs abuse, whether it was in a cafe or a restaurant or anything else like that. So it's not like as if they're joined into a fan base where they kind of where it's very easy to win them over.
But as well, like what you said there was like they maybe want to go for a walk or whatever. Can you imagine a Premier League player walking around, say Newcastle or whatever, without getting a hassle? As well as, you know, so whenever he is trying to do stuff, he's probably always getting hassled, whether it's social media, whether it's this or that. But this is what they signed up for when they became a professional footballer. It's not nice, it shouldn't happen. But, and this might be something we'll talk about anyway, it's like you look at the clubs now, they're planning a massive boycott of social media now because of the online hate for everyone, where it's discrimination, racism, the whole lot. They hit the crossbar there.
Yeah, Pereira,
I think it was.
Yeah.
So there's the so clubs are starting to do stuff about it, maybe to start raising a bit more profile with online bullying and hate speech and all this type of stuff. So I think they're setting out a message now to basically the Facebooks, Instagrams, and so on, that this stuff won't be tolerated anymore. And hopefully you'll see an end to all the horrible messages that players receive. Because I've actually been on Jeff Hendrick's Instagram. I just went through some of I remember it was one night I couldn't sleep. I don't know why I was on his page, but I was. And I went through the comments, and some people were like, I hope you die, and just all this horrible stuff. Like, why would you say that to someone? Like, because they play football or they might have had a bad performance, you hope they die. Like, I know this is like people think, oh, well, he's a footballer, he has thousands of people looking at him or whatever. He won't care what I has to say, and they probably a lot of the time don't. But when you see something enough or hear something enough, you do start thinking it, and you're like, oh, or if somebody keeps calling you shy, you kind of start thinking, am I actually shy? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it must be tough for them right now. But look, let's hope that Jeff kicks on and starts doing well again.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like, it's a dream job to be a footballer for everyone. Like, it's a form of entertainment, really. So I know it's maybe not the correct choice of term to use, given everything the Super League, but it is like, and it's the most enjoyed sport in the world and everything else like that. And it's a job that anyone will kind of give their left or right arm for. And then you're like, just because you have a bad game or you don't deliver every now and then, like, people think it's okay to threaten you and make stupid entry promises like that. And as I kind of said to someone else before, like, it's seriously have to question the mentality of these people that post these comments. They think that, like, this is not even that it's okay and everything else like that, but they think it's a good idea, and they think it's all right and it's fine, and that they're going to get away with it and they're getting attention themselves. Like, they're clearly, obviously, maybe some of them are looking for attention and they know exactly what they're doing, but other ones, you just seriously question, like, mentally where they are, even in their own kind of point of view. Just even because that's kind of a good topic to bring up, because obviously it's something that broke out in the last kind of 24 hours. I know I say we as a page, but like, obviously you've been the head of the channel, you've been a great one to kind of push it with the posts. So when any time an Irish player gets abused in social media and they post up, and you've always been great to kind of share it on behalf of the page and stuff like that. And done a podcast on it before as well, earlier in the season for one of these watch-alongs. Just overall, in general, anything else kind of like you feel that needs to be added from that kind of stance that they're taking? Obviously, it is. I think it's a very, very good idea, and hopefully there will be some difference made from it.
I'm not. I wouldn't be an expert in kind of how or what they could do, but let's see how the boycott goes, and if it goes well, then hopefully it makes a difference, and they show that clubs and players and so on show that they're not going to be, or that they're going to be taken seriously, and they're not going to take it anymore. So I think that's the only thing you can do right now is just kind of see how it actually all comes about, and then see what the actions are from it. Because do Instagram, do Facebook, do Twitter, do they act upon it? Do they start getting people to verify their accounts using passports, using IDs to get on? And you have to have, someone has to take responsibility for the actions that are taken on these accounts, and whether that's being arrested, whether that's this, whether it's that, so be it. It needs to be done, because that's the only way it won't be tolerated. Or ban the people who have done it, and then when they look to set it up again under the same identity, they're not allowed. They're banned, and then they'll soon stop, change their tune, and stop saying stuff to people. So that's pretty much my 2 cents on it. Have you anything to add on it?
No, but it's got to a stage now where anytime you see a player who has a bad game or has a bad miss, particularly when it was very, very strong when any black player just missed an open goal, for instance. Like I just think of Marcus Rashford from Man United against Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. You just know instantly straight away that he's going to get abused and everything else like that. It's just because like it's just happened so often, and it shouldn't be. Like even with Callum Robinson, like probably that was probably one of the best days ever of his life. A couple of weeks ago, scored 2 goals against one of the biggest Premier League clubs, and like to give yourself club a big win. And obviously after everything he went through with Ireland the previous couple of weeks, to finally have something to be happy about after on the field to play football, to get that the next day was just totally utter disgusting. Like it just really annoys me, and it even goes back into like I just can't understand this whole theory of like where people can just just because you're a different skin, just because you're black, you're a different skin color, you're just different. When ultimately they were all the same. Like I just really annoys me and disgusts me that people differentiate because of your skin color and everything like that. When we're just all the same, we're the same people, same common interests, same backgrounds, everything else like that. Like Ireland has just come on such a long way. Like it's fantastic to see all the different nationalities, the different cultures, everything that goes on in this country, and it's great to see so many people that now represent Ireland that have come from different family backgrounds and ethnics and everything else like that. And to still think there's people out there that of this narrow-minded, backwards, Stone Age behaviour, it just so much infuriates me. I know, like I've never ever looked at like racism or kind of in a way that like I look at someone if they come from a different background or different skin color, they're different to me. Everyone is just the same, and it just kind of annoys me. It's still at this day and age that there's still people that who've be of a similar age ground to me that have been supposedly in this category, that now been educated on the topic, that still seem to be so stupid.
Yeah, but did you always just do it because they know it'll spark a reaction? There's people out there that love controversy. There's people out there that love drama. They love the fact that their name will get shared all over the place, whether it's wrong or right. There's people out there that love that, and that's unfortunately the way the world is. There's many weird people who sit in their wherever they live. It could be in the basement or whatever, and they just sit there and they've nothing else to be doing with that other than going on and abusing people, trying to get a reaction because their lives are just not interested. They've no friends. They can't go out. They just sit around abusing people who are trying to do things like, I'm sure you've been abused by the stuff on this channel. I've been abused just for simply just promoting Irish football and stuff like that. People out there just don't. There is just people that just will not like you no matter what you do, whether you're an absolute angel or whether you are a horrible person. People are going to judge you and be horrible to you no matter what, and that goes with racist comments as well, which is unfortunate as well. But again, hopefully this stamps it out, or at least the majority of it gets stamped out. But you're starting to see more and more getting called out. Like I see Darren Randolph every day nearly sharing stuff now, which is good. And he was one of the first that came out to defend James McLean as well. So there's been, obviously Irish players getting targeted for racism as well, but they don't put it under the same umbrella. But yeah, it just needs to happen now, and it's good to see that the clubs are taking a stand now. So it's probably well overdue, to be honest, but better late than never.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one next weekend because I think there's plans for Liverpool and Man United fans to meet up as well outside Old Trafford. Whoever thought that they'd come in arms together to protest over the Super League? So next weekend could be a memorable one for fans taking action and for clubs taking action against a lot of talking points that have infuriated most people in the footballing world. But move on a little bit and keep the comments coming. A good one in here from Ross, keeping with the team, unfortunately, of Irish players who have struggled this season is Matt Doherty. And will he leave Spurs in the summer or fight his way back into the team? I suppose that stance has changed a little bit inside the last week with Mourinho kind of leaving. A lot will depend on who becomes the new manager in the season next season. I think we can all agree that Ryan Mason won't be the permanent Spurs manager at 30 years of age next season. It's a hard one to know.
If he had a won today, he might have been.
Might have been, yeah. I suppose they're still not completely out of the question for top four. It's a mad one. Every time they have a bad result, you think they're done. And then when they win a game, they somehow still, you keep looking at the table and you think, geez, they're not that far away. Like, so it's a weird one. Like, overall, I didn't expect Mourinho to be there next season anyway. I think his days were numbered after they lost that Europa League game against Dynamo Zagreb. I'm just kind of surprised at the nature of it before the end of the season and just the week of a cup final. It's a hard one. Like I think we touched on it there earlier. We wouldn't be surprised if we went back to Wolves. I think it'd be a good move. I think Nuno as well is a big fan of him. Like I said, the fans would buy back into him. I don't think there'd be any kind of bad blood there. But maybe Doherty would kind of feel that, look, I don't want to be remembered as the player that went to Spurs and failed, and I've got an opportunity now, a fresh start, new manager, might take a shine to me. You know, new manager come in, could Spurs and could decide to play, right, we're going to play with two wing backs, and that could suit Doherty down to the ground as he thrived on upon Wolves.
Yeah, well, the only thing we'll have to just wait to see who the new manager is, and I think it'll be an interesting summer for not just Matt Doherty, but a lot of Irish players who I was actually going to do a video on top 10 players that need to be moved, or not need to be moved, but need to move from the club that they're at. But I'm yet to do it yet. But I had a list of 10 players, and Shane Duffy was one, Matt Doherty was another, and there was a couple of other players, Robbie Brady, Jeff Hendrick, and all. I'm not going to tell you the rest because I end up ruining the video. But yeah, it's all these players I think need a move this summer, and Matt Doherty I think is one of them. I think back to Wolves makes sense for everyone, and regardless of what manager comes in, if you look around, what top managers are available right now? It's not that many. The manager for Bayern Munich is going to become the Germany manager. Then you've got Joachim Löw. Would he be a good manager, or is he going to be the Bayern Munich manager? You just don't know. So I look around and I struggle to see who's a good manager out there that could come in and do well with Spurs. And I think he'd be just as well off to go to Wolves. The only thing is Semedo's there. And is he an upgrade on Semedo? I don't know. He's certainly better for Wolves than Semedo has been, but I think Semedo's probably just taken his first year to get used to it or whatever. Maybe do a swap deal. Semedo for Doherty. You never know. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I realised there when I went for my sup of water, I muted my mic and unmuted myself. But overall, in general, it would be a bit harsh to say that like his time at Spurs has been a failure. I know he hasn't exactly established himself as a regular and reached the levels as he had with Wolves, but he still has played quite regularly. And it's not off, apart from himself and maybe Seamus Coleman, we don't really have anyone that be classed as one of these so-called top Premier League clubs.
Are you putting Everton in that bracket now, yeah?
I think Everton. I think historically, if you're going to include Spurs in that bracket, I think Everton definitely belong in that bracket.
No, I agree with you. It's just not many people like to say it. That's all. So that's much
appreciated. After chatting to an Everton legend Tuesday night.
Good old Sheedy. He's a great man, isn't he?
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, just with Doherty and Coleman, yeah, there's not that many. Even Coleman's days are numbered. Everton are in the market for Max Aarons now, so I think they'll sign Max Aarons from Norwich. And Norwich are producing some serious players, and hopefully Onmo Bamidele follows suit and just be partnering Ben Godfrey and Max Aarons in the future at Everton. That'd be nice now.
It's just a shame, as you mentioned, like with Coleman. I think I do agree with you, but I know, again, going back to similar to Doherty, he hasn't exactly been a regular this season, but I think he's done well this season. I think he's played quite well. It's just unfortunate. I think, as you touched on, like Max Aarons now is just, I'm surprised he's still stayed with Norwich this season. He's at the right age profile that he could kind of establish himself in that spot for years to come. Where Seamus, like, you're probably looking at maybe like another year, really maximum anyway. So it probably would make sense as well. But I think, as you would be the first one to say as an Everton fan, like, he doesn't owe the club anything. Do you think he still would be definitely good enough to hold on to a Premier League club if he was to move in the summer?
He won't go. He won't move. They're looking at even trying to get him in as a coaching role. So
All
it looks
right.
like Everton are actually trying to keep him there for good. Whether he stays or not, I don't know yet. But the way he speaks about the club, the way everything about him, I think even if he does stay, I think he'll still get minutes like he does now. But there'll be games where, if we know that Everton are going to be defensive, Carlo Ancelotti will probably play Seamus as a right full in that scenario, or maybe as a right centre back, because Seamus is still a very good defender. Well, he may not have the legs to get up and down with as much speed as he used to. He's still very much able to play on the wing. He's able to play centre back, and he's able to play right back. There's not that many players in the squad that are that versatile and can play those positions quite well. He's a captain. He's a leader. He's someone that you want around the club. And Marcel Brands has said it. He's the one trying to get him coaching. And Carlo Ancelotti said he's up there with the best captains he's ever worked with, and he included him with John Terry, Sergio Ramos, and Maldini. So he's in very good company there. So I think, look, if Coleman wants to be a bit part player at Everton, it's better than going somewhere like I don't know, a Burnley maybe, and just, yeah, you play games, but you're getting beaten more often than not. At least if he's playing with a team like Everton, who probably, if they're allowed to spend this summer, they'll have quite a good team and quite a good squad. And still, he was used quite sparingly this season, but he's done really well. I think the 3 games for Ireland really helped him get his sharpness back, and he's been playing really good football ever since that international break. He's came back in. He's probably been Everton's best player. I think most Everton fans have said that too. So yeah, look, I think Seamus has shown that he's still very much a top player, and it's just a kind of, I think it'll just be more managing his minutes and managing, because he was getting a lot of injuries and stuff like that. So I definitely see Coleman staying at Everton for the next 2 or 3 years. Whether that's good for him or not, I don't know, because again, I would rather him stay and work with a world class manager like Ancelotti than go to. I mean, who else could he go to? If you were realistically to look around the rest of the league, who else could he go to? Not one club for me springs to the top of my mind and says, he'd be a good fit there, because I don't think he would. I think he's perfect for Everton. I think he embodies everything that Everton is, and that's why Marcel Brands has identified him and Leighton Baines both to be coaches and stay at the club. And if I was in charge at Everton, I'd be making Seamus Coleman an ambassador for Everton in the future, because of all everything he stands for is all the values that Everton stand for as well, and he's just the nicest footballer you'll ever meet as well. He carries himself in such good stead. He's mannerly, he's polite, he's nice to all the fans. He'll start from the very start of the gate to the last person at the gate, and he'll sign all autographs. He'll talk to everyone. He'll get pictures, and he'll do it every week. He's exactly what you want. He's the perfect role model for any kids out there. I mean, he's probably my favourite player, other than maybe Tim Cahill and Robbie Keane, obviously for Ireland. Seamus probably right up there as my favourite player of all time. And that's just because of how good he's been over the last decade or so.
Yeah, I echo pretty much everything you said there as well. I think if you were to ask any other Irish sports person from any other sport, and they asked who's the most person you would adore and idolise and admire from football, I think Seamus Coleman would be the answer for someone from this island as well. Should also say we've got so much caught up on this talk, first about Matt Doherty, but as it always does when we talk about an Irish right back, Seamus Coleman is never far away from the conversation. We've got so much sucked into that. We've got to even say it's actually 1-1 at half time between Aston Villa and West Brom as well. Just one thing you touched on there, you mentioned about Everton making him an ambassador in the future, even asking yourself to dip a little bit more into predicting the future. Do you think he could even have what it takes to make it as a top manager?
I think so. He's already doing his coaching badges and stuff like that. I know Gavin Pearce said that he'd look to probably manage and do it with him. So I think that they'd be in as a management team together, whether that's Gavin as the manager and Seamus as the assistant, or vice versa. I don't know, but I know that's what he's got his sights set on in the future. But I think he could be a coach at Everton, learn his trade there, and then maybe go up the coaching ladder and maybe be with like maybe he'll probably start off with the League of Ireland club maybe, um, and then work his way up. I know he said that he wouldn't rule out managing in the League of Ireland. He also didn't rule out coming back and playing in the League of Ireland, and he also hasn't ruled out coming back and playing GAA in Donegal. So there's loads of things there that
Yeah.
you're telling me there that I can predict the future. Nothing's guaranteed, but look, it will be interesting to see what kind of over the next 5 years what his next couple of moves will be, because I think it will be interesting. Definitely think he's grown as a leader with Everton and Ireland. I think the captain's role, obviously, with Ireland, I think that propelled him. I think he was very unlucky to get that injury in 2017 against Wales, and that really kind of set him back. I felt for like a year or two. He kind of took 2 years out of his career over because he was still, even when he was coming back, there were signs where he looked a little bit jaded. But now he looks like the Seamus Coleman of old. Like he really looks sharp, and he really looks like he's playing with no fear again, which is what he used to be like. Whereas probably the last couple of seasons or two, he'd be very negative, and he'd get to the byline and then he'd cut back and go backwards rather than whipping the ball in. So he's starting to get that edge back to his game, which is great to see. But I think players like James Rodriguez and that obviously helps. Whereas before he was playing with I don't know who, Morgan Schneiderlin and these types of players who are there's levels to the game, But just with Coleman, like I just think it will be interesting to see how he goes on, because he's still going to be obviously playing with Ireland. He's still going to be playing with Everton. So will he be a regular with Ireland still? Because I think Stephen Kenny will keep playing him as that right centre back.
Yeah, definitely didn't do his harm, and his cause any harm in them last couple of matches as well. And interesting, you touched on there as well about going back to Donegal and the GA side of things, because I think it is one thing to say, even though he has been over in England now for over 10 years, but you still get the strong vibe and sense of him. He's still very much a home bird. He loves coming back home and everything else like that. And to be brutally honest, I think if you were from Killybegs as well, I think most people would love going home, because it is an absolutely beautiful part of the world as well. Like, so yeah, there's no two ways about it. Like, he could really be anything kind of going forward. He does strike me as someone who still has that great kind of football head, kind of maturity about him that he could make as a manager. But as you said, then again, he has that kind of strong personality that he'd be fantastic as an ambassador. And I think it's all fair to say he's going to go down as an Everton legend. I'm going to stop talking now because I know you're dying to get in here with something, Paul.
No, I just want to say, I just want to cut across you, but like I think it shows when you look at James Coleman, right? And you ask, and football is a very brutal sport where people will say, "Oh, I hate him," this, that, and the other. I probably could count on one hand the amount of times people have actually said that they don't like him. Everybody likes Seamus Coleman. I think that's testament to who he is as a person, as well as the way he carries himself as a footballer.
Yeah, definitely. Even as like a Liverpool fan as well, like I have absolutely no dislike towards the man whatsoever. Obviously, I'm Irish, so obviously Ireland will always come first over Liverpool. He's been a fantastic servant for us, and I think even when the debate comes in years to come, he's hung up his boots, and we're talking about the greatest Irish team of all time. That he is. I know we've had some fantastic players in that position, but he's going to be heavily involved in that conversation. He might not necessarily win down that right back spot, but by God, he belongs. And definitely, I think if you were to do a team of this decade, even again, like he's right up there as well. He's been a fantastic servant, and as you say, like just the way I think he carries himself off the pitch as well, and everything else like that. And I think the fact as well, he still has such a love and affection for his home county, his hometown. It's just fantastic to see as well. Even on that event with Sligo Rovers and Greg Budge the day, and having the laugh and the crack and saying chants and stuff like that. He's never really lost who he is. He's always kept touch and always remember his roots and remember where he's from. And I can see why someone like you, being an Evertonian, being an Irish person, why you'd love him so much. And I think even Evertonians as well, like locals, I can just see why they would absolutely love and would take to him kind of so much as well. But we'll go from talking about one Donegal man to another one, because Ethan is back in with a comment, and just going back into our social distancing as well. A survey carried out, and they can fit 800 people into Finn Park socially distanced. So just think of how many people you could easily get into, like Turner's Cross, Tallaght Stadium, some of these stadiums. But Finn Harps is a pretty decent sized stadium in fairness to it, like, so if you get 800 in their social distance, there's no reason why, as I mentioned, some of them stadiums that I've named, you can get more in, and similar size stadiums like the Showgrounds, Richmond Park, you could easily get similar figures in as well. I don't know what the story was. I wasn't at any game in Talca Park last season before, obviously, the Pirates kicked in, but I think you were at least one of the home games. What was the situation in terms of what stands were actually opened at that stage in Talca?
The side stand where the media would normally be, and the
Yeah,
stand facing across, those two were open.
where the dressing rooms are.
No, so just directly faced across from where the media sit, right
All right.
across.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we've
So
actually had
that's
another goal here as well. So West Brom have actually now taken the lead about 2 minutes in the second half. I've actually missed it because I was too busy looking at Paul as opposed to watching the game. But unlike
well, who
watch
could
otherwise,
blame
we
you?
will actually have the benefit of a replay here as well. The camera did zone in on Tyrone Mings afterwards and his blue chewing gum, so he must have made a mistake. But if West Brom could see this out,
Conda slipped.
so I don't know why they're
Oh,
zooming
and
in on
then
Tyrone Mings.
Mings deflected it in.
Oh yeah, but
It was unlucky though.
yeah, Paul. Even though we've touched on that before in the WhatsApp group, we aren't big fans of Big Sam, despite what Gary Spain might say. But from an Irish point of view, obviously, if West Brom get another win tonight, it just keep that revival going, and who knows, another great escape like 16 years ago could happen again.
Yeah, it's nothing against West Brom or anything like that. It's more
Big
people
Sam.
trying to claim that it's more people trying to claim that Sam Allardyce is God, and if he came in and played managed Ireland, that he'd make us this formidable force, and how different would he be to Martin O'Neill or Mick McCarthy? So it just annoys me when these people come in with these silly things, and they're like, Big Sam would be a great manager for us. And it's like, well, we actually have a manager, albeit he hasn't won a game yet, but you can see what he's trying to do. And you speak to any actual football people, maybe other than Richard Dunn, but everyone can see that we are making progress in terms of the way we're playing and stuff like that. We just aren't scoring goals, and we're losing games by the odd goal. And had some of them got games gone the other way where we scored first, like I think if we scored first against Luxembourg with that Collins chance, we win that game. I think there's been games like that. We just didn't win the game. Luck hasn't gone our way. COVID hasn't helped. So there's been loads of stuff. I know I'm going off a bit of a tangent there, so I'm going to come back to what I was saying
I've even forgotten
regarding
what it
Sam
was. I was just talking
Allardyce.
about West Brom and Big Sam.
Yeah, but I just think people need to get over this whole, we need to bring in a Sam Allardyce type manager. He was England manager for about 2 weeks, and then he was brought to light with what he was really doing, and then he was sacked. So I just want to stop the conversation of Big Sam and Ireland manager. Big deal. He managed for Limerick. Big deal. How long ago was that now? Like,
He wouldn't like to be in my household. I have a regular discussion, and I will have an even more heated discussion with my father if West Brom win this game, because a bit like Gary Spain, he actually is a Big Sam fan, but I just think he just likes Big Sam because he's just an old school, traditional, no nonsense kind of type person. I think, as opposed to actual his management style, but he does get a kick any time he wins a game. Good comment in here as well from Jack Hayes. A bit like your top 10 Irish players need a move video. We won't give too much away of this because we're going to discuss this on our Premier Division show tomorrow. But we will touch on it just a small, because it probably was the main talking point from the weekend of the games in the League of Ireland. James Finnerty's red card. I suppose, Paul, you were probably best positioned to talk about this because you were there at the game. I did think it was harsh looking back on the replay, watching it back Saturday morning. Would you agree, or do you think that the referee made the right call?
in real time, where I was watching it from, it looked like a penalty to me. I think the red card was harsh. I think the penalty was right, but I think the red card was the wrong decision. I think the penalty would have been enough punishment, and it ruined the game. The red card did, I think, because both were brilliant. Ross Tierney was excellent. Liam
Excellent.
Burke was really, really good. And Shamrock Rovers were really good equally as well in parts. Dan Mandreo, I thought, done quite well. Obviously, he won the penalty. People were saying he was diving, this, that, the other, but they actually did kind of frame it with like a screenshot of his foot was actually planted into the ground, and Finnerty did catch him. But still, I don't think it was a red card offence, because you're talking about an obvious goal scoring opportunity. It wasn't. ball was played through to him when he fell, and there's no obvious goal scoring opportunity there. There was no guarantee he was obviously going to hit the target or obviously going to score. So yeah, I just think that I think if Liam Burt scores that goal in the first half, that he managed to squander somehow. I don't know how he missed, but I think Bows probably win that game. But yeah, look, to long story short, I think the red card was the wrong decision, but the penalty was the right decision.
Yeah, I totally agree with you as well. I think the biggest thing is what I kind of took away from watching this game Friday night. Like, we heard all this talk, obviously, when it first broke out about the supposed European Super League, and a lot of people's reaction was, right, well, I'm going to get involved in the League of Ireland and start getting behind my own Destiny League. And it's all great and everything else, because we've heard all this talk before, but people end up drifting away because they reckon the product isn't good enough. So how important, how brilliant do you think it was that the first televised game we had, first real chance to get a big audience to try and suck people in, that we had a fantastic game of football to show them on Friday night?
Yeah, I think it was good. When I spoke there earlier about Ross, he bought the Shell's top, and he was actually mentioning me in stories all day Friday, cheering on Shells, and then obviously seeing that we were winning the game and stuff like that. So I think more people see the problem that we have in this country is League of Ireland fans, certain League of, not all, but there's certain League of Ireland fans that seem to think that if someone came in and started supporting, say, Bows or Rovers now, that all of a sudden they're blow-ins. Instead of just going, right, you're part of the fan base, let's get more of you in. Let's get more people into the club. Let's show what this club is about. Let people buy into the club and show that, our club actually means something to you, unlike the Premier League clubs that are in the top six or whatever, who clearly don't give a toss about their fans. These clubs in the League of Ireland clearly do give a toss about their fans, and you can see that, like, all the clubs are very good to their fans, and they're always having events, and they're always trying to do things, fundraisers, all these types of stuff. I know a lot of players that will go to local clubs with the trophies and stuff that they've won and stuff like that. So they do care, and they do try to give back to the communities. They go to schools in the local areas and stuff like that. I think you need to see more of that. But I think getting more people in more regularly is what we need to do, and that goes for every fan channel in Ireland. That goes for every social media outlet. Even off the ball, they need to start doing more stuff for the League of Ireland, because all they ever do is Premier League stuff. And sometimes you'll see some of their people at big games only in the League of Ireland, but you wouldn't see them at, I don't know, Finneas versus Longford game. You'll only ever see them at Rovers and Bows, Rovers and Dundalk, and that's all you'll really see. So I'd just like to see more coverage now, more than ever, and let's start trying to build up the fan base. And then when the league comes back with fans, then we'll have more people ready to come in and start supporting. But I think it's nice to see people going out. And I think what you need to do is, if you're looking to start being a League of Ireland fan, buy a jersey or something, buy into the club, and then when they're playing, enjoy your jersey and get your pictures up on social media, start watching the club, start finding the love for that club.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I don't want to be kind of coming on here and using our channel to have a pop with other media outlets and stuff like that, but like, you do strike a good chord. That's something that really does annoy me with say someone like Off the Ball, which, let's be brutally honest, they are the biggest sports channel and media outlet in this country. And I kind of thought maybe I was being a bit naive, but when I was seeing they had someone there the first game of the season, I was thinking, right, maybe they've changed their tune, but they haven't. They've been at 2 games since, and they've both been in Tada, and they've both been the big games where it's easy access for them. Like, I remember last
hopefully
season,
it changes.
Yeah, like, I remember last season, like, when the league came back, the first night back of the pandemic, to have Stewie Burns talk on about the League of Ireland and talk about how people can get involved and start supporting them more. And I'm like, but you don't do anything. Like, we had the best FAI Cup final last year, probably since Derry and Pats in 2013, and you don't even talk about the next morning. Like, I didn't listen to their morning show on Friday, but I looked back through their videos. They didn't have one video talking about the Dublin Derby specifically, like the biggest game in this country domestically. It just, as you said, like, it's not kind of good enough. And even, like, if I'm going to go down this road again, I don't want to call out people, but like RTE, like, yes, fair play to you, you're showing more games than ever now. You're actually showing a game every Friday. But it's embarrassing that you have to go onto a Twitter page to watch highlights. There isn't an actually designated highlight show. It's just, it's not good enough. Like, and especially this day and age at the moment, like, where there's, the main number one sport in this country, GA, isn't even happening. Like, there's a golden opportunity there for live live sport. Like, it's just, again, I've kind of gone on a bit of a rampage here, but as you say, like, yeah, like we need more people to kind of buy in as well. And this kind of whole stigma of being afraid of, oh, I'm going to be clashed as a blow and stuff like that. Like, you're not. Like, I'm a prime example. I've only started following the league since I went to college in Dublin in 2015. And, 5 or 6 years in, I'm absolutely loving it. And as you say, like, everything that you touched on there about the community and the connection with the fans and the players and stuff like that, and they care about you. And you go to a game and you meet a fan, there's a good chance you actually will meet them back in the same spot the following week, and you'll build up a bond and attachment and friendship with them. I've experienced all that in that 6 years, and it's been absolutely wonderful. And hopefully, I'm saying 6 years, but hopefully in a year's time we'll talk about 60 years. Well, that'll make me 85. I'll be doing well now if I'm living to the 85.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens. But yeah, look, you make some good points there, and hopefully it does change. But I see outlets like that. I mean, if we can get people volunteering to go to games, I'm sure they put it out that they want the people going to games and stuff. It's a great experience for them as well. Those people coming in and trying to get to different grounds and different games and stuff like that, and just raising a bit more profile of the league. But you're telling people. I know they've been showing live games on the Fridays and stuff like that, and long may that continue. But you've people like Air Sport were trying to do a good job for the League of Ireland. I thought they would try and show a game as much as they could. I think they actually think they're a bit of a loss for Irish football. But I think that with RTE, as you say, this is an opportunity. But how do you expect people to start getting behind clubs when your own broadcaster don't get behind the clubs? So it's a bit annoying and frustrating, because you're trying to say to people, oh yeah, get your Watch LOI subscriptions and stuff like that. But then again, sometimes the subscriptions, something can be going wrong on the stream or something like that. So you'd probably ideally want to watch it on, RTE on, on your telly or whatever it is. Oh, sorry, I thought there was a goal going in there. But you want to watch it on your TV. You don't want, if the stream's not working, it's just going to send people away. This is crap. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
Whatever. So yeah, it's just it's difficult, and I don't know the answer to it as well. So it's difficult in that sense.
Yeah, like, in fairness, like, to Watch Out, it's great that we have the platform stream, and I think it's nice to see that they brought in the core commentary, and you're getting the great insight from someone like a Gary Rogers or Joe O'Brien or whoever at these matches and stuff like that. But I think now, after last season, do you think they would have invested in getting a second camera in and having an action replays and stuff like that? And I think even the league themselves, like the kickoff times, why is there 3 games kicking off all the one time on Saturday? I know they might say, oh, we're trying to compete with the Premier League, but there wasn't a Premier League game at 3 o'clock yesterday on Saturday. There's a golden opportunity. Like, I was watching, I Chromecasted on my phone onto the TV, Derry versus Sligo yesterday, and then I watched Dundalk and Drogheda on my laptop. But I'm just kind of thinking, like, could there not have been like one game at 3 today, then one game at 6? Today, could there not have been a game? Maybe could there not be more games on a Friday, 2 games at 7:45 as opposed to, like, because Friday was always the traditional night for games. Now it seems to be more Saturdays and stuff like that. Again, a bit like the Premier League, will like the traditional 3 o'clock kickoffs come back when fans come back in? Will more traditional Friday night games come back in when fans are back in grounds?
Or I think I was speaking to a guy who does the marketing for the FAI, and he was saying that they'd probably be looking at doing Saturdays at 6 and Sundays at 6. But nothing's confirmed. He's just saying that he thinks it would be wise. Now, he goes to games because he does be a linesman at games as well.
Yeah.
So in the League of Ireland, so he probably know best, because he'd be traveling up and down the country and kind of seeing it firsthand. So I think he has a fair idea of what he's kind of talking about. So that could be interesting as well. I mean, Sunday at 6 o'clock would be an ideal time. I know you're probably clashing with a game like this now, but I wouldn't mind sitting out at West Brom and Aston Villa to see a Rovers and Bows, or even Shells or Treaty or whatever. I'd be happy enough going and seeing that.
Yeah, I think from our kind of point of view, I don't know how you kind of found it, but from like us, from a media kind of point of view, and we're trying to get content then up after matches and stuff like that. I do like the Saturday kind of 6 o'clock where you have loads of time. Sorry?
I was just admiring the save. Sorry, I thought it was a goal. Right. It was a great save.
Thought you were pulling me up on something there. But no, I do prefer, from our point of view, like in terms of when we're trying to get content and get post-match interviews and all that up afterwards, that the 6 o'clock on Saturday is better. You have more time in the day. You're probably more alert in the evening at 8:30 on a Saturday as opposed to maybe 10:30, 11 on a Friday night and stuff like that. And the thing is, you actually have an evening to yourself. Like for instance, I think I was at the Bowls Pats game a couple of Saturdays ago, 6 o'clock. I'm only 20 minutes cycle from Daymount. By the time everything done, it was 9 o'clock. I timed then to go down to the office, get a couple of cans, sit down, relax, and chill out for an evening. Whereas on a Friday evening, more often than not, by the time or even say for instance last Tuesday, I'm just going straight to bed afterwards. Like you're kind of tired and banjacks. And I think probably even for fans as well, particularly for fixtures like the Finn Harps going down to Waterford or Derry going down to Cork, like a Saturday would be better. Like you don't have to take a half day or a day off work, more time. You could maybe stay overnight, maybe break up the journey over the weekend or something else kind of like that. Like so.
Well, that's what he was saying. He was like,
yeah,
for Friday nights, it's difficult for families getting kids back home. They want to start trying to get families into games and stuff now, which makes sense. So, having kids that are probably under 10, getting them back home at like 11 o'clock and stuff like that, they have to go to bed and stuff like that. You don't want that happening. You if you went on a Saturday, you could have them in bed by, say, 10 or earlier. You were saying that you'd be back from a game at around 9. So 9 o'clock is quite handy in comparison to, say, 11 or midnight. Depending on, you could be traveling from anywhere, even down the country games on a Friday, and you might not get back till early hours of Saturday morning if you're an away fan and stuff like that. So I think that they are trying to sort out something, but you are going to be dealing with things like the GAA. You are going to be dealing with things like not so much in the summer with the football, but you've even got, say, I'm not sure if there's going to be a break when the Euros are on. I probably imagine that there will be a mid-season break, but I don't know if it clashes with that. But there'll be that as well. People obviously want to be watching the Euros in the summer too. But I think July, August type things, the only thing that we're really competing with is the GAA.
Yeah. Which I suppose, but I suppose the thing is though, like you're always going to be competing with the GAA and stuff like that. And I suppose prime example, just picking Gary for instance for someone like that, because just I know him, you're always going to have your die-hard core of League of Ireland fans, football fans, that regardless of what GAA game is on, they're just going to go to a League of Ireland match instead anyway. Like so, that's always kind of going to be there in the background. I think the Friday night game, maybe for something like your Dublin Derby, or like say for instance Drogheda versus Dundalk, where there isn't much of a commute involved, that's probably a good option. Makes for good TV because I think everyone enjoys watching the derby because you know there's going to be a couple of tackles flying in, bit of hostility, it's going to be a bit of a buzz, bit of an atmosphere. Like if things were normal, there would have been 5, 6, 7,000 people in Tala on Friday night. There would have been pretty much, especially the way that Drogheda are going, you would have a full away end and a packed Oriel Park kind of yesterday, and it was the first derby between them sides in a long time. So still think maybe something like that on a Friday night could be a good option as opposed to something like your Finn Harps versus Waterford, or I suppose nearly anyone kind of playing Waterford because they're so far away from every other team in the division at the moment. But like, a Derry versus Longford or something.
Yeah, well, I think you could have a game on Friday that's televised, and that's fine. And you could have that one, and then space Saturday, Sunday. I think they'll still keep the first division games on Fridays probably, but I don't know. Look, it's all speculation. But
Yeah.
we've been stuck on that comment for ages, so I'd say there's a load of other comments. So let's see.
There's been plenty kind of coming in. Unfortunately, I felt we had a good rhythm kind of going with there, but I suppose maybe we might keep that for our League of Ireland show tomorrow as well. Good one here coming in from Paddy Downing. It's on Jack Byrne, and is he still injured? Oh, there's your answer.
Yeah, he is, but he looks like he's back in the gym now, so he'll probably be back running soon. I'd say our best bet for Jack for Ireland is they'll probably link up with the squad in June, and they'll have that camp, and you'll probably play against I think it's Andorra and Hungary we play. So yeah, I think he'll be in the squad for that, and I think we'll have a pretty big squad for those games as well, because he needs to have a look at most people. So yeah, hopefully he's back. It was his birthday yesterday.
Oh, congrats, Jack. I think he's now back on level par with me in terms of ages. I've been 25. Some great people born in the year 96. Myself, Jack Byrne, Josh Cullen are just three that instantly spring to mind, maybe because all their birthdays were recently.
90 myself.
Another one in here from Sam Morris. Was keeping small about the League of Ireland team, as we touched on, like big squad coming up probably for Stephen Kane this summer, because it's the first time he's going to get an opportunity to work with players. Could be a possibility for a couple of League of Ireland players to get in, like Jack Byrne when he was there last year, and Aaron McAniff. Good to see him get another goal for Hearts yesterday. Lee Desmond, do you think he could be someone who could be involved in it? Obviously, I have a lot of biases towards Lee Desmond. I think he's been excellent for Pats, not just this season, but the last couple of years. But I think he's really stepped up in terms of being a leader in this early stage of the season. But taking my bias hat off, I don't think he's someone that would be standing out from the League of Ireland to get into the Ireland squad. What do you think yourself, Paul?
I think he's quality. I think he's a very, very good centre back. I think he has to make the Callum Robinson's just coming off there now. He has to make the magic flight to England, I think, before he's going to get a look in. There's still players playing in Scotland that aren't even getting a look in. Do you know what I mean? Like attacking players and stuff like that. We've got quite good centre backs, so I think centre backs not really an area we're looking to be testing and experimenting around. There's players that are way ahead of him in the pecking order that are younger than him, I'd say. Darragh O'Shea, Nathan Collins will be there once he's fit. I think he'll be in there. Even the likes of that young lad at Burnley, Jimmy Dunn, and then you've got other players there. These are at Premier League clubs, which are there's no comparison to the League of Ireland, unfortunately. No. Lee Desmond, for me, definitely one of the best centre backs in the league. I think he's gotten better season on season. He's been brilliant so far this season as well, and he's grown into a real leader for that Pats team as well. And I think he will probably move on in the next 2 years to something better if he doesn't help Pats win the league or at least get a couple of, maybe a cup run or something like that. But something. But I definitely think that he is vital to St. Pat's right now, and he has been brilliant for a number of years now, I think, anyway. And that's from a total neutral point of view.
No, I think he's probably stood out the most the last kind of couple of years, because there's been a lot of chopping and changing with Pat's with centre back partnerships. He's had Kevin Toney, he's had Dave Webster, he had Luke McNally kind of last season. He's always kind of been there, but definitely I think for me, like I put it to Stephen O'Donnell as well after the win against Bohemians a couple of weeks ago. Like when Bowes went and searched that equaliser, he just really stood up, and I think he was just one player. You could just tell by him, he was adamant. He was letting absolutely nothing past him. And again, even last week, I thought I was going to repeat the same question to Stephen O'Donnell against Dundalk and Oriel Park. He would just stand up by a mile, but unfortunately, Dundalk got in for a late equaliser. He's been excellent. He did actually touch on it there during the week. There was interest in going to America during the off season, but I think he more so out of just uncertainty with COVID and kind of the pandemic. He kind of felt maybe now wouldn't be the best time to move over. But as you say, like in terms of looking the Ireland squad, yeah, you're probably still looking at has to get a move across the water, whether it's to England or Scotland. He's 20. I think he's 26 this year, 27. So time is running out against him a small bit. Another good save by Sam Johnson. We talked about West Brom players who could be getting moved in the summer, and he's definitely another one that could be very much in that category as well.
He's only going for 8 million. He's only going for 8 million. They were saying that they'll be looking for
very
which
cheap.
Is steal.
To answer Silva's question there, it is 2-1 to West Brom, and we are now entering the 70th minute of this game. So 20 minutes left for the Baggies to hang on what would be a valuable win. It'd be their third win in 4, which would be pretty impressive, I think, considering they only won one game under Big Sam before the international break. So they are giving themselves a small bit of a chance of a revival. Just keeping as well with injury news and updates on Irish players and Nathan Collins. Rob Kelly wants to know what is the story with him. I think, to the best of my knowledge, he is still injured as well as Stoke. I was looking through their matchday squad yesterday, both himself and McLean. Neither of them were involved due to injury for the game against Nottingham Forest yesterday. Big disappointment, because the way he was playing in the first half of the season, he was definitely a shoo-in to make the Ireland squad for 10 games in March, and would have been very much involved in the conversation for a starting berth.
Yeah, I think he was unlucky to get injured when he did. I think he was going to be looked at or definitely brought in. But the fact is, he got injured and he wasn't brought in. And I think Jim Crawford's a huge fan for him as well, of him, sorry. And I think he's been basically saying that he thinks that Nathan will be the next star player to come through there, and he talks so highly about him. So there's also other players there who, if they perform well, and maybe Conor Masterson, if he comes back and does well with QPR, he could be looked at as well next season. He's out on loan, I think, at Swindon at the moment. And yeah, I think we have a lot of good centre halves. Coming through, Omar Bambadelli as well will probably be ahead of him in the pecking order, performing really well at Norwich. he could probably be in the squad in June. If not, he'd be with the under-21s. I just think that I think Lee Desmond, like for example, I just think he's been unfortunate that he has been kind of overlooked over recent seasons, probably more than most. But he was in training with Ireland not that long ago. Like he was in to make up the numbers for a couple of Ireland's squads. He was in with, I think, who else was it? Conor Kearns when he was at Pats, and there was a couple of other players brought in when the COVID was really wreaking havoc on the squad. So there's definitely Stephen Kenny obviously thinks he's good enough. He brings him into training with the team, So it will be interesting to see what he can do for Pats this season. Does he get a move off the back of it, or does he stay with Pats and maybe help them progress over the next couple of seasons under Stephen O'Donnell? Because they're going really strong at the moment with the team at the minute, and I think in the league you'll find it hard to find anyone more informed more informed than them, and obviously Rovers Sligo now have lost, but Pats are right up there and doing really, really well at the minute.
Yeah, can't complain so far as a Pats season, but we won't be getting too far ahead of ourselves. And again, like from a personal point of view, same as McNally, I can understand why, if the opportunity came up and it was the right offer, right club, right money, even for the club, I could see why they'd want to maybe look to cash in and why he'd look to move. But definitely, if Pats get into Europe next season, to have any chance of competing.
Oh, good save.
Good save, yeah. The corner's coming back in again, and it's headed away this time. But yeah, if Pats are to get into Europe this season, like if there's any chance in competing next year, you need Lee Desmond at the heart of that defence, fingers crossed, and he's at that right age profile now. As I mentioned, he's there at the club a long time. I think Stephen O'Connell was saying during the week, he was brought in as a teenager, and he hasn't watched him develop, but the club has watched him develop over the years, and he's now at that stage where he's just starting to come into kind of that kind of prime kind of leadership kind of age in the team, and he has been fantastic, and hopefully his and Pat's form continues collectively over the course of the season. And who knows, Paul, in the autumn we'll both be celebrating league titles, fingers crossed. Sorry to any other members of our channel who support other clubs, I'm sorry.
Yep, hopefully.
Yeah. So look, if Treaty United won in the playoffs, Gary Spain wouldn't mind one bit at all.
Yeah, they're flying at the minute.
Yeah, just one here from TD5. I thought that was S for a second, but it's 5. Probably just more so, not really Irish related, but maybe just to leave to a bit of general conversation here. It could be an interesting one. Bamford better than Watkins. They've both had pretty identical seasons, I think it's fair to say. They both I was going to say they've come from similar backgrounds, but Bamford's been tried before in the Premier League and hasn't worked out for him. You kind of felt as well, he's that couple of years old, and Watkins, so this might have been last chance kind of saloon for him. And he's done well this year. Watkins has built his profile quite nicely up through the years with Exeter and Brentford, and has taken off fantastically at the Premier League this season. I think both have an outside chance, if I'm to be honest, in making the England squad for the Euros. Watkins probably has a better chance because he was involved in them March kind of games. But I would probably go with Watkins. I think overall, I think he's a little bit more impressive, and I think as well I'd be a little bit more biased in the sense that this is his first time in Premier League and he's delivered. Or at Bamford, he hasn't done it before, so he'd be a little bit wary, and with his age profile, I know you've kind of raised on it before. You're not overly convinced by Bamford yourself, Paul.
No, I think he's having a good season. I think he'd do well to replicate it next season. So it would be interesting to see what actually happens there. And I'm not overly bothered by him. I hate bringing him into the conversation. He doesn't want to play for Ireland, and he just doesn't do it for me. He just doesn't do it for me. I think Leeds fans love him, but yeah, right there.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn on the light because I've noticed I'm quite a bit dark from looking at myself in the video, so I'm just taking off the mic that I don't pull it out from my laptop.
No worries. But I'll just keep talking about Ollie Watkins while you do that.
Grant, I probably should say myself.
Yeah, just Watkins, I think, is actually a very good player. I think he's only going to get better as time goes on. As the seasons go on, I think he's only going to get better. So I think he'll be a far better player than Watkins in the future. But yeah, I think probably right now, Bamford's better, but I think Watkins will have a better career, if that makes sense. So that's how I feel about that matter. I think you have your mic on now, so I'll let you speak whenever you're ready there. All the muffling's going on. Any other comments, actually?
Apologies there to anyone who didn't realise what the hell was going on there for a second and didn't know what they tuned into on 8:30 on a Sunday evening. I think anyone would have been quickly switching back over to reading the ears and seeing me putting off the tops there.
I thought you were doing the full Monty.
I really should have given a warning as to why I was doing that. But anyway, and there's one actually in here from, it's just fresh in as well, from Rob Kelly. Best Irish youngster. Is a good one.
You go first.
I don't like this. Best Irish youngster. I would have to say, even though he's not playing at the moment, but because of his performance over the last kind of couple of weeks, Darragh O'Shea for me. I think he's really kind of kicked on. I think it's good to see Aaron Connolly back last night, coming back from injury. I think that was his first appearance for Brighton since the Serbia match. But as we touched on as well before on the channel, like he can't seem to get a consistent run of games. Looking at the Norwich team sheet again, I see Adam Ida's name down as an injury list again. Obafemi hasn't got going all this season, unfortunately, injury, so it's been disappointing. Yeah, so it's been, again, another one who just can't seem to get himself fit for a consistent period of time. I think Troy's a hard one. I think people are very, very harsh. I think people have to realise, again, the lad is only 19 years of age. He's still a teenager. And like he's still getting valuable experience of first team football. It's his first time properly playing senior football this season. Like he still got a handful of games in the championship in a good standard. I know he didn't score goals. I know he's not banging in goals either for Ipswich, but Ipswich aren't exactly great this season. They can't even score themselves in general. But like the fans seem to like him for his work rate and stuff like that. So I think people need to just kind of relax a little bit on Troy and just let him kind of naturally develop. I think people got too carried away and thinking that he was just going to hit the ground running at senior level because he was doing it at youth level. It just doesn't work like that. But I'd go with Darragh O'Shea for the moment as well.
Darragh O'Shea's not a bad shout. I think Jason Knight's a good shout.
I knew I'd leave out someone.
What?
I knew I'd leave out someone.
Are you doing another striptease now, or what are you doing?
I'm polishing off from where I started before.
All right, okay. I just thought you might want to give people a warning if you were going to start stripping again.
Oh,
I think Knight is a big one. I think you see people like Rooney talking so highly of him, but there's talk of Derby getting relegated as well, which obviously isn't going to help the case. And if he'll be gone, there's no question of him staying in Derby. It's whether he goes to a Premier League team or whether he goes to a Championship team. I personally would like to see him make the move to the Premier League, but again, every move for every player is a risk. So I just hope that the risk is worth the reward for a Knight if he does go to a Premier League club and he's not rotting on the bench and losing key years of his development, like you probably say Jason Malumbi did at the start of the season. I know that he's gone to Preston to try and get minutes and stuff like that, and I don't know why it hasn't worked out for him. I think Alan Brown said that he was used more as a number 10 for Preston this season when he's been played, and that obviously hasn't helped his game because he's not naturally a number 10. He's more of a box-to-box, energetic midfielder who gets on the ball and tries to make things happen. Whereas obviously as a number 10, it's not really his game, being technical in small spaces and setting up goals and stuff like that, because he likes to get around, he likes to make tackles, and he likes to get stuck in. So to be thinking of him as a number 10, it is a little bit strange, and I think that's why it probably hasn't worked out from a Preston. Again, these players need to go play to clubs where they know that they're going to be picked by the clubs and probably played in their best positions. So there's that save there by Martinez was brilliant. Again, it's just a replay for the one that he tipped over the bar from the inside of the post there. But just with he wants an answer on the best youngster.
You've made a strong case, Jason Knight there.
Just hard to pick one. Omar Bamidele is another one coming through who is highly regarded as someone who will make it to the top. I hope he's not watching because I don't want to give him a big head. He should be coming on the channel soon too. Gavin Bazunu is another one who I think is unbelievable talent who just popped into my head. Like, I'd love to have a list of players in front of me now because I know I'm missing a couple. I think Bazunu is in with a good shout, having a really good career as well. Kelleher, and Mipo Odebeko as well, but we don't know what's going on with him. Like, Jim Crawford saying that he definitely does want to play for Ireland, and then there's all the nonsense around not following Ireland on social media and following England and all that type of stuff. So it doesn't help his cause, but I don't think fans help the cause by going onto his page and saying, giving him abuse over it and stuff like that. he has played for Ireland in the past. There's been no talk of him transferring. People are saying that he's going to transfer to Nigeria now. I honestly don't know, but I think June will tell a lot with him whether he's going to be playing for Ireland. But definitely at the underage setup between himself and Troy in terms of goals, they bring the goals, but probably haven't hit the heights at senior level or top level just yet. But there's still plenty of time for them to come in and hopefully take their chance when they can. And I think Aaron Connolly never really gets a mention in this conversation, even though his career has kind of went very quickly up the ladder, more so than probably some of the rest of them. He has scored at Premier League level, and he's someone I think is one of Ireland's best chances of scoring in a game. The only thing that I will say is that if you look at Ireland's squad, I've said this a few times now, but if you actually look at our squad, how many of our players are actually playing at club level? And I wouldn't say that there's that many. Have you lost me?
No, I've thought.
Sorry, my screen froze. Sorry. No, my screen froze. That's why I thought that it wasn't you. Sorry. If you look at our players, how many of them aren't playing at clubs? Like Seamus Coleman doesn't start week in, week out for Everton. He would be classed as one of their better players and obviously their captain and stuff. Then you've got Matt Doherty, who doesn't play at Spurs. Then you've got Robbie Brady, who can't seem to get away from injuries. You've got Jeff Hendrick, doesn't play for Newcastle. You've got Kieran Clark, who plays occasionally at Newcastle. You've got
Clark has now kind of established himself as a regular. I think it's fair to say at this stage.
Sometimes I think if Lascelles and Shah are there, I think he's probably going to be on the bench. But I could be wrong on that. Newcastle fans maybe in the comments saying otherwise. But look, I'm basically saying that Duffy at Celtic still not playing for Celtic. Connolly doesn't start for Brighton. So how many players on my list here will probably be classed as probably starters for them, and they don't play at their club? And there's more. Randolph.
Like even it's mad. Like even look at Shane Long's situation. He dropped down a division to join Bournemouth to get regular game time, and he's found game time extremely difficult to come by there. Like it is very, very tough and difficult as well. Even like I know he's got a great run now at West Brom the last kind of couple of weeks, but like Callum Robinson prior to the March internationals was not a regular, wasn't playing much. He was playing under 23s football only a couple of weeks before that game, which is it's not the same. Like let's be brutally honest about it here. Like so, it is very annoying. It's very frustrating. It's even worrying as I say. Like that we have players even at championship level at clubs that aren't getting regular game time. Like the Jason Malumbi one, I thought. Right, new manager Preston after the break, he'd start getting game time. He's not even getting a look in at all. Like, and it's very, very worrying and frustrating. Now it's good to see maybe
as well. Collins as well. He came off the bench today and helped them win the game. He scored and got an assist for the third goal. But here's Darryl O'Shea coming on the pitch now to see out the game.
But even as well, like who's playing for Luton today, their opposition Bristol City. Like you never know what the situation there with Callum O'Dowd. He's another man as well that an injury never really seems to be too far away from him as well. And he's kind of getting to the stage now with the fact that there's younger players come up in them positions that like he's almost nearly getting kind of cast aside. So I think nearly at this stage of Ireland as well. Like so, it's very, very annoying. It's very, very difficult. There's no two ways about it. But fingers crossed that we will eventually start getting more regular players going for us as well. But yeah, that was a good one that you met there. I knew I'd forget the good name, Jason Knight as well. And I think there's no two ways about it. Regardless of what happens to Derby in these last two matches of the season, I don't see him being a Derby County player next season. I think even Wayne Rooney, if even he ends up being the manager for next season, I think he'd realise enough and say, look, Jason, you've got a good future ahead of you. Look, I've talked you up a bit like you are better than this, better than a team that are scraping by their teeth at this stage to stay up in the championship. They're literally praying for Rotherham not to win their games in hand, because if they do, they're in serious trouble dropping down to the third tier.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out, and I hope Derby stay up. I hope this just because they have Irish players there. You've got Festio Ebazelli is playing for them, and he started playing in recent weeks. Then you've got Shea giving us their goalkeeper coach, and you've got Jason Knight there. Now I know what they did to Richard Keogh wasn't good, but they still have a good Irish contingent there. And you want to see them playing at the best level that they can, and obviously want to see someone like Shea Given as an Irish legend. I want to see a club that he's associated doing well. So I've always kind of wanted to see Irish players and people who have an affinity with Ireland do well at whatever club, even if they're retired, like Shea, for example. And then obviously with Jason Knight, seems like a great lad too. So I want to see him. And look, if he can stay at the post there. If he can stay at Derby as well, because I'd like to see him stay at a club where I know he's going to play week in, week out, and still continue his development rather than go somewhere and not play. So there's that element too. If they do stay up, that he may stay there, but I think it could be a good opportunity for him to move up to the Premier League and see how he could adjust playing in the Premier League. It can only benefit Ireland, but it's what club he goes to. A Leeds, the way they play, but how long will BL to stay there with them? Will he take a liking to them and stuff? So there is that as well. So I can't see any other clubs other than maybe Leeds where he would, for me, break in. Maybe a Norwich could be good going up this season. But again, I think they've got good experienced midfielders there as well. So it really is about, where's the next move? Where does he go? He has to make that right decision from a football point of view, not a financial point of view. And he doesn't cross me as someone who would go somewhere for more money, even though football is a short career. He strikes me as someone who loves football and wants to go somewhere where he will definitely progress. And that's where I see Jason Knight going. And I think the Zunu and a couple of the other players like that for the future, I think they are going to be more so going places to play. I think Kelleher needs to do it too. I think he's one who needs to maybe look at a loan move elsewhere, or look at whether is Liverpool still the right club for him. Is it beneficial for him to be a number two? To Alisson, how many games this season will he get? Because Alisson's been back in now for a while, and Kelleher's not really got a look in at all, really, has he? And I know we're in the business end of the season, so he probably won't play again unless something happens to Alisson in the next number of weeks. I think the season's over in 3 weeks' time or something like that. So will he see much game time? He'll definitely benefit from playing. He'll probably make his first cap for Ireland in the games in June in Spain. So yeah, it's all about kind of now the next move for some of these key players for us. Malumbi needs to make a decision. Does he stay at Brighton, fight first place? Because the loan move at Preston hasn't worked out. Sorry. So does he stay at Brighton? They've given him they gave him a contract, and then he went to Preston. I'm fairly sure, and he signed a couple of contracts in that time as well. So they clearly rate him. But does he stay there and not play? And there's other midfielders there who you probably say aren't that good. But Malumbi is an Irish international now, and he's shown that he can play international football, but you can't seem to get a look in the Premier League for a Brighton side that that they're not that good. I mean, I wouldn't class them any better than Burnley at the minute. I like the way they play football and stuff like that, but they don't tend to be the top end of the Premier League ever, really, do they?
No, they certainly don't. I think they're always in and around the same position as Burnley. They're pretty and they're nice in the eye to watch, but they don't exactly they don't really have that kind of clinical edge to finish teams off. And it's an interesting one because I think Graham Potter and Brighton would have looked at the few as like, send him on loan to Preston and he'll replicate what he done with Millwall last season and he'll grow his profile and stuff like that. But I think even they're kind of looking and thinking, well, if he's struggling to get game time at Preston and stuff like that, it's going to be very, very hard for him to make the jump and make a case that he can get game time in the Premier League next season. But look, he's a player who's probably going to benefit from the fact he's going to have a complete, proper close season, proper pre-season, where other players might be coming back in drips and drabs from that summer tournaments, and he might be a little bit ahead, could get in early doors next season, and fingers crossed he might get a couple of game times. Well, even just looking at the playoff picture as well, I think pretty much from an Irish point of view, I think we're all going to be praying that Swansea get promoted. They're the only team in the playoffs that have Irish connections with Conor Hourihane and Ryan Manning. Hourihane's even only on loan, but I could probably see that becoming permanent in the summer. Certainly, I think Swansea will definitely be pushing for his impact there. And Manning, it's a weird one. He's got a lot more game time over the last kind of couple of weeks, but again, another name I did not see on their team sheet for their game against Reading today.
Yeah, I think there's a club that might suit Knight if they go up as well. But the only thing is they'll probably be looking for experienced players. But again, Knight alongside Hourihane in the middle of the park, that could benefit Ireland as well. if they're playing week in, week out. Obviously, that depends on whether or not they get promoted, because I don't think they'll be buying Howard in unless they get promoted. He'll obviously go on to get them up there. And they played so well so far this season. With Manning, yeah, I mean, I think he was signed on deadline day in January, and he's played here and there. Again, he's been brought into the Irish setup based off that move, I think, as well. He's done well. And he always seems to be involved with goals and stuff like that. I think he's an interesting one because he wasn't always naturally a left back. I remember playing for the under 21s, and he was like a striker, number 10. So for him to make
just saying that he broke through with QPR as a midfielder, and yeah, 2-2. Didn't want to break your thought there.
Oh, that's heartbreaking for West Brom.
Yeah, just one thing that might be interesting for Conor Hourihane because of his connections with the club. Barnsley are one of them clubs in the playoffs, and if they were to pull off the miracle and get promoted, because they definitely will be seen as the outsider of the 4 clubs. He's a former player there. He had a good affection with the fans as well, got them up to the Championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they did get promoted, that they would look to bring him back, because again, Barnsley, if they get promoted, they are definitely going to need players who've had Premier League experience to give themselves any chance of even just competing in the division next year.
Yeah, I think, well, what was that defender doing, letting that bounce?
Yeah.
That's criminal defending. If I was Big Sam would probably be murdering him now after this game. Who was it? Number 5. Oh, that's criminal. He should be just trying to clear that for first time.
90 seconds.
They're just showing the replay for me, so that's why I'm talking about that. Sorry.
It's been a good game.
Yeah, it's been decent. I think with Hourihane, Hourihane and Barnsley. Look, I think clubs will be in for Hourihane regardless because of the way he went to Swansea, and look at the amount of goals that he scored since he's been there. He's shown that he's still hungry and he still wants to play as top level as he can to try and stay in form, to try and keep himself in the Ireland squad. I think we really missed him in the last round of games. I think we could have probably done with him, but we didn't have him. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see him probably maybe in a more advanced role for us. And he maybe could have done well because he's been flying with Swansea at the moment. Well, at that time, sorry. Maybe not so much since, but I definitely think that Hourihane could be someone that we look at this summer as someone who'll probably go somewhere, whether that's Premier League or top level Championship team. I think he would go for a fairly low fee considering he's an international player. So I think you get Hourihane for less than 10 million, probably about 6 to 8 million, considering his age. And I think that would probably be within a club like Barnsley's price range, and they would probably look to try and get him in. I think it makes sense. I think there's a synergy there that makes sense. He obviously has an affinity with the club, having been there before. It's a bit of a natural fit. He knows the area well. He's got 2 kids now, and he probably wants to settle somewhere. So I think his next move is pretty important for him because he'll need to go somewhere where he can settle. But I think it's safe to say he's leaving Villa.
I think so. I think it's strange to think that he went from having a fairly big role with them last season. If he wasn't starting, he was always at least come off the bench, or he wouldn't be far off starting the next game. But he started the season really well for them. Then they bring in Ross Barkley, hits the ground running, doesn't get a look in. I think he played one more game and he gets completely frozen out of the picture. So I just don't see a situation where suddenly Villa would kind of take him back in and look to bring him back into the fold as well. And the fact as well, maybe to touch on small about his age and stuff like that as well. But I definitely think there will be options for him, good options in the summer. Like I said, and like I said, Swansea probably would be one of the teams I would like to see come out the playoffs just in general. They play a nice brand of style and brand of football as well. So fingers crossed, although they've kind of crawled their way into the playoffs over the last kind of couple of weeks. But talk about Swansea trying to get up into the Premier League. It looks even more incredibly likely that West Brom are going to be in the Championship next season because it's just ended 2-2. It's a massive, massive blow for them. If they had hung on and won that game, it would have given them a right good chance, but it's finished 2-2. That late equaliser from Davis for Aston Villa. And I suppose, Paul, that's pretty much kind of where I suppose we'll wrap it up for the evening. We don't have any more kind of comments coming in. So is there anything else you just want to touch on, I suppose, before we call it a night here?
No, just big thanks to anyone who tuned in and got involved in the comments, and anyone who's watching, please make sure you subscribe to if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on Facebook, make sure and give the page a like or follow. And yeah, if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and give the video a like as well, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Yeah, I think you said it all there. We'll have loads more content coming up throughout this week, so keep peeled. So that's why, like I said, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. You'll get your notifications of when we bring content out as well. Like I said, as Paul said there, thanks to everyone who got in with a like and with the comments this evening. Sorry if we didn't quite get around to reading out some of your comments. There were so many, and we kind of dived in a little bit heavy on some of the topics, and maybe went on a little bit too long and talk about the games. But yeah, I think that's where we are going to leave it now for on this Sunday evening. Thanks for everyone who was watching this evening. Take care, stay safe, and I was going to say enjoy the last of the sunshine, but the sun has probably gone down wherever you are. But anyway, take care, everybody.